All right, thank you, Bridget. All right, so this is the NEMSIS V3 implementation call for September 26th, 2018. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, we apologize for the bad link that was sent out in Join Me. We're not exactly sure what's going on there, but we sent out a new link. Thanks for looking and joining with us. We have some important things to cover today, so would like to dive right in. I don't think our call will go for the whole hour unless there are other discussions, points that people wish to bring up, but we've got some important information to share that will help you, I think, and your colleagues that you work with that should be helpful. So let's begin by talking a little bit about some revisions to the V3.5 revision process, what we've done on the website to help you track progress, and perhaps also to be able to share the link with others who may want to kind of catch up or track with us as well, either at a state level or other stakeholders that you may be in contact with. So we'll just mention briefly item A here. We had hoped to provide a mechanism whereby you could track the progress of each of our approved revisions, kind of a Kanban board, but we just learned last week that the product put out by Atlassian called Jira that we're using removed the ability for the public to view the Kanban board. So we're in the process of developing a way for you to track. But still want to go to the website to show you a couple of things that we've added. So I'm just going to drag this over here. This, of course, is the NEMSIS website. We have a strong sense that over the next year and a half, as we continue to just develop the initial revisions for 3.5.0, and as that moves forward, folks will continue to be very interested in looking at the progress and understanding the process. What's the timeline? Lots of questions will continue to arise as more people become aware of the process that's moving forward. So we've tried to, there was a lot of information that was piling up on the V3.5 page, and so we've tried to improve its look and kind of provide a way for people to navigate that more easily. So you'll see that we've added a link here right on the front page right below the hero slider, that the link down here remains the same for the version 3.5 revision, but there's a new page behind this. I'll show that to you. Now you can get to it either by this link and also by this hero slide that you're seeing right now, this slider. So if I click on this, it's going to take me to a new page for the version 3.5 revision, and it really starts with these 4 questions, kind of a why, what, when, and how. So feel free to pass this on to your stakeholders, those who are just becoming familiar with the revision process. There's a why move to 3.5.0. If you click on this, it'll bring you up to some videos that we developed that kind of help explain why we're moving. The bulk of the information that you'll be interested in is under what is in the revision. That's where we'll keep track of our process that we're making. When these changes take place, if you click on this link, it'll take you directly to the timeline. So this will be an easy way for you to pass along to folks the ability to look at the timeline. And then how can I follow along? I'll go here just real briefly. This is one of the items we wanted to comment. So here's where you'll get directly into the Jira project, where we are tracking and have described that this is where you can kind of go to track our progress. Here is the comment form. So if while tracking an issue, you see that we are developing some process for an approved revision that you think could be done differently, or some other approach that could be helpful, or additional information you'd like to see, we would love to hear from you. We would just ask that you identify the ID number associated with the change, and so that we can track your comments and make sure that we address it. In the Jira project, as we've mentioned, these numbers, this ID 48, these track with the same ID that we've used for a year and a half, right? So the PowerPoint presentation this idea for ERS 03 is ID 48, so you can always go back to the other products to track that. So let's go back and look at where the meat of all that's in the revision, how that now looks. So if you click on that link, you see what's called the 3 big ideas, adding the universal unique identifier, the national elements that are going to be demoted, and the work for e-disposition 12. And then here are the 3 batches of revisions that we went through. And then here again, you'll find the JIRA project and the comment form. So, and here, also important to mention is the Excel spreadsheet that includes all the changes that are included in batch 1, batch 2, and batch 3. So hopefully just a little bit of a more clear kind of representation of all the information that was on that version 3.5 revision page, and a way for folks who are kind of joining us and want to track with us can move through these things in a more organized fashion. So any questions about the changes that we've made to this page? Okay, all right, great. All right, the next item up for discussion, Prabesh and Richard, who were at the V3 implementation meeting in Deer Valley in August, Richard led the group looking at what we want to do with eOutcomes section, and both of those gentlemen asked that we put an item here on the agenda today. I think we'd like to get a work group started to finish the work that was started by this group. Is either Prabesh or Richard on the phone?
Hey, Clay. Yeah, this is Prabesh from Ministry, and I'm on the call.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. I'll just show you real quickly. As you know, you can go in and pull down the findings from all of the work groups. Here's the work that was accomplished during the meeting associated with coming up with a universal approach to eOutcomes. They identified 3 options, and I think that's where you want to go with the work group. Is that correct, Prabesh? Is that correct?
Yeah, that was one of the 3. There was actually 2 other options that we came up during the meeting. It was only on a whiteboard. I don't see that listed here, but I think our approach was that we would actually just see what it requires to work on each options, and then basically try to get some vendor and provider feedback to see which one would fit them the best.
Great. That sounds really good. Are you looking for folks to join a work group that we could help you lead?
Yeah, I mean, we would welcome pretty much anybody who wants to contribute and help. We definitely want to stay, also have some provider feedback and vendor feedback, so we probably want a whole lot of distributed people on it instead of just working.
Okay,
so I'd pretty much welcome anybody who wants to join. I think me and Richard, we can actually just put out our email somewhere on the site. Do you guys have anywhere that we can actually put up emails or have a discussion except the Google group right now?
You bet. I can put those up there. Also, you could add your email to the chat if you want to, and that would be helpful. Folks could I could contact you that way, and I also feel like you can contact me or Lisa just here at the TAC. This is an incredibly important work group, so we would love to have some good participation across the board on this. The eOutcomes section, as folks know, was put into version 3 really before 2010, really, with the idea that it was not completely understood how we would get information back to our providers regarding patient outcomes from hospitals. This was kind of a placeholder. That the XSD structure here really isn't set up to deal with kind of CMS-approved templates. So this work is going to be incredibly valuable, and hopefully will really facilitate our ability to exchange data both with HIEs and with hospitals and with others by standardizing at least our side of that handshake. So incredibly valuable to be part of that. Please feel free to email either me, Lisa, Pravesh, or Richard Hale at ESO if you'd like to join that work group, and we'll organize that, provide doodle polls, and kind of help to provide the kind of underlying resources to make that happen. So, yeah, thank you, Pravesh. I look forward to getting that off the ground. That will be incredibly valuable.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, there's two other work groups that are currently active doing great work. One is associated with eDisposition 12, and the other is associated with a CARES NEMSIS harmonization. Both groups are making good progress. The eDisposition 12 group has been moving along very briskly, and so they really have come up with some great ideas. We'll hope to have those finalized in a way that can be presented to leadership and others very soon. So look forward to that coming. The CARES NEMSIS harmonization work group really handled the easy stuff early on, and now they're really kind of delving into the real kind of philosophical differences between CARES and NEMSIS, and so that's going to take a little bit more work. And I think actually a member of the Office of EMS within NHTSA is going to help and join the call as well to help us work through some of those philosophical issues. So that group's also making good progress. We're excited about that. Number 5, wanted to share with you your voting regarding the late breaker revision request that happened on the last call. So let me bring those up, and I'll show you where we stand on those. Let's see if I can get this up as well. Okay. Maybe put this on top like this. That might be a good way to do this. All right. So you'll remember on the last call we went through 10 late-breaking revision requests, and there were votes associated with those. So I'm just going to move through those quickly so you can see what we will be taking to the DMC as far as findings for them to provide a final vote and a final direction for us. So late breaker 1, this was removing from the eTimes 09 definition the word with a patient, and so it was more kind of a generic term. It looks like there's good support for that request. Late breaker 2 was to be able to deprecate the D context section. It doesn't look like there is strong support for that move. Let's move down here. Okay, the idea of adding one more way to confirm an airway device, that is chest rise, good support for that idea. Also, good support for the idea of revising the E-airway section by moving the appropriate elements out of that section and into the E-procedure section. So this also gained strong support for this revision. This is a revision that NHTSA was apprehensive for us to even consider because they thought it would be too complex this late in the process. We will entertain it kind of early on here in just a couple of weeks and see if we can find an easy way through this that will really kind of remove this kind of double entry that's going on. If there's a simple way to do that, we'll present that before NHTSA and see if we can get approval for that to move forward. So we will work on this based on the voting. That's great. All right. And then the idea of a gateway element being added to NEMSIS to guide folks through high priority activations. There was not good support for that. The idea of fixing the patient's occupation link and changing a value, good support for that. The idea of adding a hospital capability to eDisposition 23, good support for that. Late breaker number 7. Fixing the definition for revised trauma score, good support for that one. Okay, a slight revision to the XSD for D agency 16 and 17. That's kind of an easy one to think about, so good support for that. Then in regards to modifying E-Other15, there's a value that needs to be deprecated because there's two values for refused. Good support for that. And then also support for adding additional refusal values, why folks chose not to sign. And so we will bring this consolidated list to this group and to the DMC compared to the ones we currently have and see if we can find how we can use these potential additions and augment what we have now, but not bloat the category too much. And so we'll work with you on that. All right, late breaker 11 really was a no-brainer. This has been fixed, and so most folks voted to decline. That was helpful. And then the final idea of adding a new element to the EMS crew member group under E-Other that kind of defines kind of occupational injuries. There was a request to add a cause of injury, and it doesn't look like there's good support for that for version 3.5.0. So that is the current voting associated with the late breakers. We'll present these to the DMC, hopefully in a special call that we'll get organized in a couple of weeks. So any questions regarding the voting or findings? Okay, great. Well, thank you for participating in that vote. That was incredibly helpful to us. All right, we have been talking for a long time about the Performance Measure API service. We mentioned at the Deer Valley meeting in August that we were very close to a testing period for that, and I think Josh is on the phone to talk to us about stakeholder testing. Josh, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, good morning. Just as a reminder about this project, the NEMSIS TAC is developing a performance measures web service that vendor software will be able to hit to get information or get data on performance measures that were defined by the EMS Compass project. And it'll allow you to get national level data for benchmarking purposes. You'll also be able to put in requests to get that data segmented or filtered in various ways. So for example, if you wanted a particular performance measure just for paramedic services or just for the eastern US, and things like that, or just for fire departments, you'll be able to do those sorts of things. The idea behind this project is that vendor products would be able to query this web service, which is a SOAP web service, and would be able to use the data that they get in response to present end user reports to their users. So the idea here is that the NEMSIS TAC provides a technical service, a web service, and that the vendors implement the visualizations that may be necessary for end users to really understand or visualize the data. This web service is going to start with 3 measures from the EMS Compass project. Seizure-01, whether blood glucose was evaluated on seizure patients. Stroke-01, whether suspected stroke patients received a stroke assessment. And Trauma-01, whether injured patients, trauma patients, received a pain assessment. Those are the 3 initial measures, and then the NEMSIS TAC will develop a schedule for deploying and rolling out the additional EMS Compass measures that can be implemented using national elements only. And so there are about a dozen of those measures that can be done, but they'll roll out over a period of time. Our next step with the project, the database has been developed. The web service is just in the last stages of development right now, a few test issues and things to take care of. And then it'll be ready for some stakeholder testing from vendors. So the time frame that we are shooting for this outside testing is October 10th through 19th, a period of about a week and a half. So at this time, I would like to ask for any vendors, software developers who would be willing to help test this service. If you sign up to test the service, then I will send you a few things. I'll send you, of course, a SOAP web service URL that you can hit and a WSDL that defines that web service. I will also send you a technical document that describes the operations that are supported in the web service and how to interact with those operations. And in addition to that, there will be a non-technical document that describes the particular performance measures that are being tracked, that are being provided. So, WSDL, technical documentation, and non-technical end user documentation for understanding the measures and how they're calculated. And then what we would ask is that you take that time starting on October 10th. That's when we aim to have the service on an externally exposed server prior to October 10th, and that you take the time between October 10th and 19th, about a week and a half, to perform testing of that service. And there are a few different ways that would be helpful for us to have you test. One is that you're able to hit it, that you get results that are easy to process, that you can see that it would be feasible for you to implement this into your platform. Number two would be that the data makes sense, that you're getting results that seem consistent with what you know from your own customers' data and things like that. Number three would be anyone who would like to help with bandwidth and performance testing. So if you've got some distributed load testing tools that are available to you and would like to help us with saying, okay, how hard can we hit this and how does the performance degrade as we hit it with lots of requests, that would be welcome as well. So those are kind of the areas we're looking for testing. So if you'd like to help out with the testing, I'm just putting my contact info in the chat box in Join Me. You're welcome to give me a call or send me an email and just say, sign me up, and I'll keep your contact information on hand. And then, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, as we get the service ready for testing, then I'll send those resources to you and give you the green light to start testing. Are there any questions about this web service and the sort of assistance that we're looking for here with testing it? Okay. Got a couple vendors in touch with me already that I've got on my list, and I welcome others to just send me an email, give me a call, and let me know if you would be willing to test during that time frame from October 10th to 19th. Okay, Clay, I think that's it.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Josh. And maybe I'll just add one more kind of business-related comment that's associated with this. Folks may or may not know that the Compass work will continue under a new group that has committed to becoming kind of a national repository for national standards in regards to performance measures. That group is called NEMSIS, and they're just getting off the ground. The Office of EMS within NHTSA is funding it, as they did Compass, and so there is strong commitment to really have a national set of performance measures whereby EMS providers can look at their performance and then compare it to like agencies or national data. That's the purpose for this API, is to provide that benchmarking service. So this is exciting. We'd hope that you'd participate in this. This will be a great addition to your software platforms. And as these new measures are rolled out and are reviewed and put out for use, we can respond quickly with this process to provide you with an ability to really provide good information, solid information to your users. So I would admonish you to contact Josh and participate in this testing. I think it will be incredibly valuable, and NEMSIS is planning to use this service, and so this would be a great opportunity to kind of get ahead of that, kind of ahead of the game in regards to national performance measures. Great. All right. So that is the end of our formal items that we want to discuss on the call today. Are there questions about any of the topics that we have covered, or other topics that people feel like we could take some time to discuss today?
Clay, this is Lisa. In the chat, I just noticed that Mark Roberts just sent a note out. We might want to read that comment and address that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, great question. So I don't know if folks can see Mark Roberts' question. I just read it. We are being asked, and so Mark Roberts is the data manager for California. We are being asked by several vendors to provide data. In many cases, it is the same data over and over. Is NEMSIS going to share the data with FirstWatch or Biospatial to reduce the number of times the same data is shared? So that's a great question, Mark. And we haven't been approached to do that, probably for one really good reason, and that is that both FirstWatch and Biospatial is interested in more data than is collected at the national level. Specifically, and probably most importantly to them, is that they pearl through narratives in their products and to look for keywords that would help them with surveillance of topics. So we have talked to both of those groups at great length, but I think neither has decided to just use the national data for that reason. They also utilize more specific geographic data so that their measures of where events are happening is much more precise than the national data, which can only indicate a zip code of events. So that's probably why. But yes, we'd love to help in any way we could to reduce the number of times you're required as states to share data if they're just interested in the national data. Any other questions that we could address? Thank you for pointing that out, Lisa. Okay, great. Well, I would ask you to check the chat. You've got the contact information for Josh Legler was listed there for performance measure testing, and also if you'd like to participate in the eOutcomes Workgroup, we also have Prabhash's phone number there, or email is listed there as well. So please feel free to join that group. I think that will be incredibly helpful to work on that group. All right. Okay, David, and then I have a comment from you that I will address with the group. Thank you. And again, we deeply apologize for the bad link that we sent out earlier, and we'll work to resolve that. So thank you for that. Thank you for your participation today. A short call today, only 30 minutes, and so you have an extra 30 minutes in your day. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks.